The soft blue lights of the Grand Galactic Council chamber bathed the curved walls of Aurelius Prime in an ethereal glow. Captain Maya Rivera stood at the center of the massive amphitheater. Her dark diplomatic uniform, a stark contrast against the pale marble floor. 580 counselors from across the galaxy looked down upon her from their elevated positions. Their diverse physiologies all united in a common posture of judgment. The Council recognizes Captain Maya Rivera, human envoy to the Galactic Confederation, announced the chamber AI in its melodious, neutral tone. Maya took a steadying breath. At 38, she was young for such a position, but her record of diplomatic successes had made her the natural choice when tensions with the Council began to escalate. Her olive skin was flushed with anticipation, and she instinctively adjusted the silver insignia on her collar, a small Earth surrounded by stars, the mark of the human diplomatic corps. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice carrying effortlessly through the acoustically perfect chamber. "I come before you today to address the concerns that have been raised regarding humanity's recent expansion efforts. The establishment of our 382nd colony on Proxima Centauri IV represents not aggression, but a natural evolution of our species' growth within the boundaries established by the Titan Accords of 2403. From his position in the observer's gallery, Admiral Elias Cortez watched Maya with a mixture of pride and concern. His weathered face betrayed nothing, but beneath his composed exterior, his mind raced with calculations. As the chief architect of humanity's military strategy for the past 15 years, he knew better than anyone what was at stake today. "Captain Rivera speaks of growth within boundaries," came the resonant voice of Ambassador Artov, the blue-skinned Xerian representative. His elongated head swiveled as he addressed the chamber. "Yet we have documented 17 instances where human vessels have pushed beyond the agreed-upon expansion zones. Their hyperlane networks now extend into the Orion Spur, areas that were designated as neutral territories." Maya kept her expression neutral. "Ambassador, those instances were all exploratory missions conducted with proper notification to the Council's Expansion Committee. The hyperlane networks are open to all species as dictated by the Free Transit Protocol." Chancellor Vexar, the imposing Dralid who had led the Council for over a century, rose from his central position. His exoskeletal frame clicked softly as he moved, the bioluminescent patterns on his carapace shifting to a deep orange, a sign of displeasure among his kind. "What concerns this Council is not merely the physical expansion, Captain Rivera," Vexar said, his mandibles clicking between words, "but the nature of that expansion. Your species has established no fewer than 42 research outposts dedicated to artificial intelligence development, technologies that exceed the safety parameters established after the Mechanid Uprising." In the gallery, Cortez's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on the armrest of his chair. The AI research was exactly the point of contention he had warned Earth's United Systems government about 3 years ago. But the civilian leadership had insisted that technological advancement couldn't be sacrificed for political appeasement. Maya's response was measured. "Chancellor, humanity has always been transparent about our AI research. The Mechanid Uprising occurred over a century ago and involved entirely different architectures than those we currently employ. Our neural symbiotic systems are designed with 17 layers of ethical constraints and—" "It is not merely the AI research," interrupted Counselor Nexor of the Phylaxian Collective, his gelatinous form rippling with agitation. "It is the militarization that accompanies your expansion. The Earth fleet vessels now outnumber the peacekeeping forces of 12 Council races combined." Maya opened her mouth to respond, but Chancellor Vexar raised a limb, silencing the chamber. "Members of the Council," Vexar announced, his voice echoing throughout the vast space. "We have heard arguments from all sides over the past 3 cycles. The time has come to vote on Resolution 7293, the proposed restrictions on human expansion and technological development. Maya felt her heart race. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. They had been promised at least another cycle of debate. She glanced toward Cortez, whose face remained impassive, though his eyes had narrowed slightly. "The voting period is now open," Vexar declared. "Council members, please register your positions." Around the chamber, councilors pressed their appendages against the voting interfaces embedded in their stations. Holographic tallies began to appear above the central dais, clustering into two distinct groups: approval and rejection. Maya watched in mounting horror as the approval count steadily climbed: 342, 419, 487. When the voting period closed, Chancellor Vexar's voice carried a note of finality that sent a chill through Maya's spine. "The final count stands at 568 in favor, 212 opposed. Resolution 7293 is hereby ratified by the Galactic Council." A murmur swept through the chamber. Maya stepped forward, her diplomatic training barely containing her shock. "Chancellor, with respect, the resolution as proposed merely called for restrictions on expansion rates and technology sharing. What exactly has been ratified?" Vexar's bioluminescence pulsed slowly. "The resolution was amended during the private session yesterday. Captain Rivera, perhaps your government did not receive the update." "Amended?" Maya's voice nearly broke. "To what effect?" "The Galactic Council hereby decrees that the species known as humanity, due to its unchecked expansion, dangerous technological pursuits, and militaristic tendencies, poses a destabilizing threat to galactic harmony." Vexar's voice was eerily calm. "Earth and all human settlements are to be relocated beyond the 100 light-year boundary from the galactic core, effective immediately. Any human vessels or colonies remaining within this boundary after a standard galactic year will be considered in violation of Council law and subject to enforcement." The chamber erupted in voices. Maya stood frozen in disbelief. Exile. The Council had voted to exile humanity from nearly a third of its existing territory. In the gallery, Admiral Cortez's expression hadn't changed, but a small, almost imperceptible smile touched the corner of his mouth. His hand moved to his wrist communicator, where he subtly pressed a sequence of commands. Throughout human space, in hidden servers and encrypted channels, a single code phrase began to propagate: Exodus Actual. Operation Exodus had just been activated. Maya's stunned disbelief quickly transformed into diplomatic fury. She approached the central podium, her voice cutting through the chamber's chaos with trained precision. "Chancellor Vexar, the Council cannot possibly expect compliance with such an outrageous decree. This violates no fewer than 27 statutes of the Galactic Charter, including Article 9, which explicitly prohibits the forced relocation of any recognized sentient species." Vexar's mandibles clicked in what passed for a drollet expression of regret. "The Council invoked the emergency powers provision. Captain Rivera, Article 9 is superseded when 2/3 of the Council determines an imminent threat to galactic stability." "Imminent threat?" Maya's voice rose despite her efforts to maintain composure. "Humanity has engaged in no aggressive actions against any Council race. We have respected all territorial boundaries established by treaty. This is nothing short of speciesist persecution." Ambassador Artov leaned forward, his elongated blue fingers steepled before him. "Captain, perhaps you are unaware of the Proxima incident 3 cycles ago. Human mining operations disrupted a sacred Vec-3 breeding ground, or the AI incursion in the Tau Ceti system that overwhelmed and recoded the Meraxian defense grid. Isolated incidents that were addressed and reparations made according to Council law," Maya countered. "You cannot condemn an entire species for the actions of individual corporations or technical malfunctions." In the gallery, Admiral Cortez quietly rose from his seat and slipped toward the exit. His part in this chamber drama was over. The real work would begin elsewhere. As he reached the corridor outside, He activated his secure communication implant. "This is Admiral Cortez. Exodus Actual is confirmed. Begin Phase 1 immediately. Priority message to all fleet commanders. Operation Ghostwind is now active. I repeat, Ghostwind is active." Acknowledgements flickered across his retinal display from commanders stationed throughout human space. Cortez allowed himself a grim smile as he strode toward the diplomatic shuttle bay. The Council had just made the very mistake he had been anticipating and preparing for nearly a decade. Back in the chamber, Maya was fighting a losing battle. One by one, the Council representatives were presenting their grievances against humanity. Overpopulation of limited habitable worlds, ecological disruption from human mining techniques, cultural contamination of developing species, unauthorized AI development, military vessels with capabilities far exceeding their stated defensive purposes. Captain Rivera, Chancellor Vexar, finally interrupted. "The Council's decision is final. Humanity has 1 galactic standard year to relocate all settlements, research stations, and military installations beyond the 100 light-year boundary. The Central Worlds will provide relocation assistance for civilian populations." Maya straightened her shoulders, summoning every ounce of diplomatic training. "Chancellor, the United Systems of Earth will need to deliberate on this decree. I request formal communication channels remain open during this period." "Granted," Vexar replied, "but the timeline stands." As Maya exited the chamber, her mind raced with implications. 87 human colonies would need to be abandoned. Trillions in infrastructure would be lost. Millions of lives disrupted. It was unconscionable. She was so absorbed in these thoughts that she almost collided with Admiral Cortez, who was waiting in the antechamber. "Admiral," she said, her voice tight with anger. "Did you hear?" "I did," Cortez replied calmly. "We should discuss this aboard the Intrepid. Not here." Maya nodded, suddenly aware of the various alien diplomats passing through the antechamber, many casting curious or hostile glances their way. The two humans maintained silence until they had boarded the diplomatic shuttle and cleared Aurelius Prime's orbital security perimeter. Once they were safely in transit to the Intrepid, Maya's composure finally broke. "This is a disaster, the worst diplomatic failure in human history. How could they possibly justify exile? We need to contact Earth immediately and begin emergency." "Captain Rivera," Cortez interrupted, his voice calm but authoritative. "Earth has already been notified." Maya stared at him. "How? The vote just happened." Cortez's weathered face revealed nothing. "Because we anticipated this outcome. The Council's voting patterns have been trending toward this decision for the past 3 years. The Intelligence Division has been monitoring private communications among the Council races." "You've been spying on the Council?" Maya's eyes widened. "That's a direct violation of diplomatic protocols that the Council themselves just shattered," Cortez finished. "Captain, I understand your shock, but I need you to listen very carefully. What happened today was not unexpected, and we are not unprepared." The Admiral touched a control on his wrist device, and a holographic display appeared between them. It showed a complex network of fleet movements and resource allocations spanning all of human space. "Operation Exodus," Cortez explained. "A contingency plan developed 5 years ago when the first serious anti-human sentiment began appearing in Council proceedings. For the past 3 years, we have been quietly preparing for the possibility of forced relocation." Maya stared at the display, the implications slowly dawning on her. "This is massive. You've been planning for exile all this time?" "Not just planning," Cortez said. "Implementing. Phase 1 began 8 months ago. Key technologies, research data, and strategic resources have already been relocated to secure facilities beyond the 100 light-year mark. Ghost fleets, unmarked transport vessels, have been steadily moving civilian populations from our most vulnerable outer colonies. Without authorization from the diplomatic corps? Without public knowledge? Maya was incredulous. Admiral, this borders on treason. Cortez's expression hardened. What would be treasonous, Captain? Would be failing to protect our people from exactly what just happened. The civilian government was informed on a need-to-know basis. President Alvarez authorized the operation personally, with oversight from select members of the Security Council. Maya fell silent, processing this revelation. The shuttle docked with the Intrepid, and they made their way to the ship's secure briefing room. Once inside, Cortez activated additional security measures before continuing. Captain Rivera, I understand your position. You believed in the diplomatic process, in the foundational principles of the Galactic Confederation. That belief is admirable, but it has blinded you to the reality that many of us in military and intelligence have observed for years. Humanity is not welcome in this galactic community. That's not true, Maya protested. We have allies. The Arcadian Federation voted against the resolution. So did the Tellarite Union. Allies of convenience, Cortez replied. The moment pressure was applied by the core powers, they retreated to self-interest. Captain, I need you to understand something fundamental. What happened today is not a diplomatic setback. It's an existential challenge to our species, and we have been preparing to meet it. He expanded the holographic display, revealing a detailed map of regions beyond the 100-light-year exile boundary. Hundreds of markers indicated new colony sites, resource deposits, and strategic positions. The Dark Territory, as the Council calls it, Cortez explained. Regions they consider too distant or resource-poor to be worth claiming. For the past 5 years, we've been secretly mapping and surveying these areas. What the Council doesn't know is that there are rich resource deposits, habitable worlds, and even ancient hyperlane junctions that their explorers missed or dismissed. Maya studied the map with growing astonishment. This is extensive. How has this remained hidden from the Council's observation networks? Ghost tech, Cortez said. Advanced stealth systems developed by Dr. Priya Singh's team at the Titan Research Facility. The same technology that allows our scout ships to map these regions undetected will now shield our exodus. For the first time since the Council's verdict, Maya felt a flicker of something other than despair. So, we have options, places to go. More than that, Cortez said, his eyes gleaming with unexpected intensity. We have an opportunity. Before he could elaborate, the ship's AI announced an incoming priority communication from Earth. The holographic display shifted to show the stern face of President Elena Alvarez. Admiral Cortez, Captain Rivera, she acknowledged. I've reviewed the Council proceedings. The outcome is as we feared. Madam President, Maya began, I must apologize for my failure to... There is no failure to apologize for, Captain. Alvarez interrupted firmly. You performed admirably in an impossible situation. The decision was predetermined before you ever entered that chamber. Operation Exodus is now fully activated. Madam President, Cortez reported. Phase 2 will commence within 12 hours. Good, Alvarez nodded. Captain Rivera, I understand this must be overwhelming for you. Admiral Cortez will brief you on your new role in the operation. For security reasons. I cannot share more over this channel. But know this. Humanity will not merely survive this exile. We will emerge stronger for it. After the President signed off, Maya turned to Cortez. New role. Admiral. I'm a diplomat. If we're abandoning diplomacy... Not abandoning, Cortez corrected. Evolving. Captain Rivera. Your diplomatic skills will be essential in the coming months. While we execute the public-facing compliance with the Exile decree, you will be leading a covert diplomatic initiative with specific non-council races who share our dissatisfaction with the current galactic order. You want me to build a shadow alliance, Maya realized. Precisely, Cortez confirmed. But first, You need to understand the full scope of Operation Exodus and why it's about much more than simple relocation. Over the next 3 hours, Admiral Cortez revealed the true extent of humanity's secret preparations and the startling discoveries that had catalyzed them. The diplomatic breakdown between humanity and the Galactic Council accelerated over the following months. Maya found herself in a surreal position, publicly negotiating the terms of humanity's exile, while privately helping to coordinate one of the largest covert operations in human history. In the council chambers on Aurelius Prime, she presented humanity's formal response, a reluctant agreement to comply with the exile decree, accompanied by requests for extensions and assistance that she knew would be largely denied. Each appearance before the council was a carefully choreographed performance, designed to create the impression of a species struggling to accept its fate. The United Systems of Earth requests an additional 6-month grace period for the Procyon colonies, Maya stated during one such session, 3 months after the exile vote. The agricultural cycles there make immediate evacuation impossible without resulting in critical food shortages across 12 systems. Chancellor Vexar and the Council predictably granted only a 3-month extension, with restrictions that made even that concession nearly meaningless. Maya accepted this with practiced resignation, noting the satisfaction evident in many Council members' reactions. They believed they were witnessing the humbling of humanity. They could not have been more wrong. While Maya engaged in these public negotiations, Operation Exodus was proceeding at a pace that would have astonished the Council had they known its true scope. Under Admiral Cortez's direction, ghost fleets were evacuating human settlements with remarkable efficiency. Utilizing the stealth technology developed by Dr. Singh, these massive transport convoys moved through Council space virtually undetected. The ghost tech was a marvel of human innovation, a combination of advanced materials that absorbed sensor scans, quantum field manipulators that bent light around vessels, and AI systems that could predict and counter detection algorithms in real time. Dr. Singh had developed the technology not for military applications as the Council feared, but as a desperate insurance policy against exactly the scenario that had come to pass. From her hidden research facility, deep within an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, Dr. Singh coordinated the technological aspects of the Exodus. At 45, Priya Singh was already legendary among human scientists, having pioneered neural symbiotic AI systems that had revolutionized everything from medicine to space travel. Now, her genius was focused on a singular purpose: ensuring humanity's survival and prosperity beyond the exile boundary. "The ghost tech is holding," she reported during a secure conference with Cortez and Maya 6 months into the operation. Her holographic image showed a woman with intelligent eyes behind simple glasses, an affectation she maintained despite available vision correction technologies. "Council detection grids have swept our convoys 14 times without registration. The Procyon evacuation is 87% complete, well ahead of schedule." "What about the deep, dark bases?" Cortez asked, referring to the secret installations established beyond the exile boundary. Dr. Singh's expression brightened. "Exceeding expectations. The Persephone station in the Eridani shadow is already housing over 2 million colonists. The manufacturing facilities are at 72% capacity, producing everything from agricultural equipment to medical supplies. But most importantly," she hesitated, glancing around as if checking for eavesdroppers despite the quantum-encrypted channel, "the precursor site is yielding results." Maya leaned forward. The precursor site was perhaps the most closely guarded secret in all of Operation Exodus. 3 years ago, a routine survey mission beyond the 100-light-year boundary had discovered the ruins of an ancient alien civilization on a seemingly unremarkable planet orbiting a red dwarf star. The civilization, which human scientists had dubbed the Architects, had apparently vanished millions of years ago, leaving behind technologies far beyond even the most advanced council races. "What kind of results?" Cortez asked. "We've managed to activate one of their information repositories," Dr. Singh replied, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "The data we're extracting is, well, revolutionary doesn't begin to describe it. Their understanding of physics, particularly regarding hyperlane mechanics and energy generation, makes our most advanced theories look primitive. But there's something else." Her expression grew serious. "Something that may explain why the architects disappeared and why we need to prepare." Before she could elaborate, the connection was interrupted by a priority alert. Lieutenant Rami Al-Khoury, the brilliant young explorer who had been mapping unknown hyperlanes beyond the Exile boundary, was requesting immediate contact. Rami's weathered face appeared in the holographic display. Despite being only 32, his eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen the vast emptiness of space and found both wonder and terror there. "Admiral, Captain, Doctor," he acknowledged quickly. "I've completed the survey of the Antlia Dark Sector. You need to see this immediately." The display shifted to show a complex three-dimensional map of hyperlane junctions. Maya, despite not being a navigation specialist, could immediately see that this was extraordinary. Where standard charts showed perhaps a dozen interconnected lanes in a sector, this map revealed hundreds, forming an intricate web that connected seemingly disparate regions of space. "The Council charts miss over 90% of the lanes," Rami explained. "Either their survey methods are fundamentally flawed, or they're deliberately keeping knowledge of these connections restricted," Cortez finished, his expression grim. "These hidden hyperlanes connect all of the regions beyond the Exile boundary," Rami continued. "What the Council considers isolated, resource-poor territories are actually part of an immense, interconnected network. We could establish trade routes, defensive positions, and communication relays that would make the Exile boundary effectively meaningless." Maya studied the map with growing amazement. "The Council told us we were being sent into isolation, into the galactic equivalent of a remote island. But this isn't Exile," Cortez said with a hint of satisfaction. "It's opportunity." As the human exodus continued over the following months, the Council began to notice discrepancies in their observations. Human colonies that should have been bustling with evacuation activity appeared strangely quiet. Shipping manifests didn't align with expected population movements. Resource extraction operations were shutting down ahead of schedule. 9 months after the Exile decree, Chancellor Vexar called an emergency session of the Council's Security Committee. "Our monitoring stations report that 95% of human colonial populations appear to have already relocated beyond the boundary." He informed the assembled representatives, mandibles clicking in confusion. Their official reports indicated only 47% completion of the evacuation timetable. Ambassador Artov studied the data with his large, multifaceted eyes. "Perhaps their logistics capabilities exceed our estimates." "Or perhaps," suggested Councillor Nexor, his gelatinous form rippling suspiciously, "they are concealing their true movements. We should deploy additional observation vessels to human territory." "That would violate the terms we ourselves established," countered Ambassador Seleth of the Arcadian Federation, one of the few consistent advocates for human interests. "We guaranteed non-interference during the relocation period." The debate continued without resolution, but a sense of unease had begun to permeate the Council. Humanity was complying with the Exile decree with suspicious efficiency and minimal protest. It didn't align with the psychological profiles the Council's xenopsychologists had developed, which predicted years of resistance, negotiation, and potential conflict. What the Council couldn't know was that Operation Exodus had entered its final and most critical phase. While Maya continued her diplomatic performances, maintaining the illusion of a struggling compliance effort, the real work was happening far beyond the Council's observation. In the Persephone Station, now home to over 12 million humans and the de facto capital of humanity's dark territory holdings, Admiral Cortez convened a meeting of the Exodus Command. Military leaders, scientists, industry directors, and colonial administrators gathered in a massive chamber carved from the interior of a captured asteroid. As of today, Cortez announced to the assembled leaders, Operation Exodus is 92% complete. All critical infrastructure, research facilities, military assets, and essential personnel have been relocated beyond the boundary. The Ghost Fleets will complete civilian evacuation within 45 days, well ahead of the Council's deadline. Appreciative murmurs spread through the chamber. The logistical achievement was unprecedented, moving trillions of tons of material and billions of people across vast distances, all while maintaining the illusion of a much slower, more troubled evacuation. But our work is just beginning, Cortez continued, his voice growing solemn. Dr. Singh, please share your findings from the precursor site. Dr. Singh took the central position, activating a holographic display that filled the chamber with swirling images of alien script and technical diagrams. The Architect repository contains information about an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. She began, without preamble. A species or force they called the Devourers. Based on the data we've translated, the Devourers appear approximately every 50,000 years, emerging from the galactic rim to consume all advanced organic life before retreating again. Stunned silence fell over the assembly. The architects didn't disappear, Dr. Singh continued. They were consumed, but before their extinction, they created a warning system, a network of automated sentinels placed at strategic points along the galactic rim. These sentinels were designed to activate and alert any advanced civilizations of the Devourers' approach. And the status of these sentinels? Asked Fleet Admiral Yoshida, her face impassive but her eyes intense. We've located 3, Dr. Singh replied. 2 are non-functional after millions of years. But the third, she pressed a control, and the holographic display shifted to show a massive alien structure orbiting a distant star. This one is still operational, and according to its monitoring systems, the Devourers will begin their next incursion within the next 20 to 30 years. The chamber erupted in voices. Admiral Cortez raised a hand, gradually restoring order. We have verified this information through multiple sources, he stated firmly. The threat is real. The question now is, what do we do with this knowledge? Warn the Council, obviously, said Colonial Administrator Farah Hassan. Whatever political differences exist between us, this threatens all sentient life. We tried, Dr. Singh said, her expression grim. 3 times over the past 2 years, through different channels. Each time, our warnings were dismissed as human fabrications designed to manipulate Council policy. They don't trust us, Maya added. After years of tension, any warning we provide will be seen as a desperate attempt to reverse the Exile decree. Then we prepare ourselves, Cortez said simply. Using the Architect data, Dr. Singh's team has developed new technologies that may be effective against the Devourers. Lieutenant Al-Khoury's hidden hyperlane network gives us strategic mobility the Council can't imagine. We have resources, space, and now, time. And if the Devourers come sooner than expected, asked a colonial representative, do we simply watch as the Council worlds are consumed, knowing we could have helped? Cortez's expression was resolute. We prepare as if the attack will come tomorrow. We build our strength, our technology, our unity. And when the time comes, whether the Council believes us or not, humanity will stand against the Devourers, not just for ourselves, but for all sentient life in this galaxy. As the meeting concluded, Maya found herself standing beside Admiral Cortez, looking out through a massive viewport at the bustling activity of Persephone Station. Ships of all sizes moved between docking bays. Construction teams assembled new habitation modules, and in the distance, the skeletal frameworks of much larger vessels were taking shape. Those aren't colony ships, Maya observed, nodding toward the distant frameworks. No, Cortez confirmed. They're dreadnoughts. The first vessels designed using architect principles. Each one will have the firepower of an entire conventional fleet. Maya studied the distant construction sites with mixed emotions. All this time, I believed in diplomacy, in finding our place within the galactic community. Now we're building weapons based on ancient alien technology, preparing for a threat the Council doesn't even believe exists. Diplomacy still has its place. Captain Rivera, Cortez said, surprising her. When the Devourers come, and they will come, the Council will need to unite with us. Your skills will be more valuable than ever. Maya nodded slowly, a new understanding dawning. We're not just preparing to survive in exile. We're preparing to save those who exiled us. Precisely, Cortez said with a rare smile. Sometimes, Captain, the best revenge is not just surviving. It's becoming indispensable. 15 years passed. The human exile had become a historical footnote in Council proceedings. After the initial tension and occasional diplomatic exchanges, communication between humanity and the Galactic Confederation had dwindled to perfunctory trade arrangements and border notifications. The Council worlds had moved on to other concerns, other crises, other species requiring their attention. Chancellor Vexar, still leading the Council after all these years, occasionally received intelligence reports about human activities beyond the boundary. They spoke of thriving colonies, new technologies, and expanding settlements. Nothing that seemed particularly threatening to galactic stability, but enough to confirm that humanity had not only survived its exile, but had adapted to it with characteristic resilience. It was on an otherwise unremarkable day that everything changed. An emergency signal interrupted all Council communications, activating ancient protocols that even Vexar had never seen implemented. The Council chamber's lighting shifted to a pulsing crimson, and a holographic display materialized above the central dais, showing a region of space near the galactic rim. "Warning!" announced an unfamiliar AI voice that somehow overrode the Council's systems. "Sentinel Protocol Alpha has been activated. Devourer Vanguard detected in Sector 9873. Estimated time to inner galaxy penetration, 140 standard cycles." Confusion swept through the chamber. "What is this?" Vexar demanded. "Security! Shut down this intrusion immediately!" But the Council's tech specialists were unable to override the signal. Instead, the holographic display expanded, showing in terrifying detail the approach of what appeared to be thousands of biomechanical vessels, each one larger than the Council's largest dreadnoughts. "These readings can't be accurate," insisted the Phylaxian science advisor. "Our deep space monitoring would have detected such a force long before now." As if in answer to this protest, the holographic display shifted again, revealing a massive alien structure that had apparently been dormant at the galaxy's edge, one of the Architect Sentinels, though the Council had no knowledge of their existence. "This automated warning has been transmitted to all advanced civilizations in the galactic network." The strange AI voice continued. "The Devourers have awakened. All sentient species are advised to implement survival protocols immediately." Before Vexar could formulate a response, reports began flooding in from outposts near the rim, entire colonies going silent, defense fleets vanishing without distress calls, automated stations transmitting garbled messages about consumption before abruptly cutting off. In the midst of this growing chaos, an unexpected communication request appeared on the Council's diplomatic channel, from Captain Maya Rivera, not heard from in nearly a decade. With a mixture of suspicion and desperate curiosity, Vexar authorized the connection. Maya's face appeared on the Council's display. She had aged gracefully, her once dark hair now streaked with silver, her expression no longer that of a diplomat struggling to maintain composure, but of a leader prepared for crisis. "Chancellor Vexar," she greeted him without preamble. I trust you've received the Sentinel warning and the initial reports from the Rim. Captain Rivera, Vexar responded, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. What do you know of this? Is this some human deception? Maya's expression remained grave. Chancellor, humanity has been aware of the Devourer threat for 15 years. We attempted to warn the Council 3 times and were ignored. Now, I'm not calling to say, we told you so. I'm calling to offer our help. Help? Vexar echoed incredulously. What possible help could exiled humanity offer against a threat of this magnitude? The answer came not in words, but in a spectacular display of force that would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. At coordinates along the galactic rim, precisely where the Devourer vanguard had begun its incursion, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. Through these artificial ruptures in the fabric of reality emerged 8 massive vessels, each one approximately the size of a small moon. Their design was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered, a seamless blend of human engineering and what would later be identified as architect principles. The Devourer vanguard, numbering in the thousands, immediately altered course to engage these new arrivals. What followed was a battle that defied conventional understanding of space warfare. The human dreadnoughts didn't merely fire weapons. They manipulated the fundamental forces of physics. Gravitational wells collapsed Devourer vessels into themselves. Targeted quantum field disruptions caused others to phase partially out of reality, tearing them apart at the subatomic level. Controlled singularities, miniature black holes, devoured entire squadrons before being precisely deactivated. In the Council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence as the supposedly exiled humans demonstrated technological capabilities that made the most advanced Council weapons seem primitive by comparison. "This is Admiral Elias Cortez of the Human Alliance Fleet," came a new voice over the Council channel. "Devourer Vanguard has been neutralized. Be advised, this was only their scouting force. According to our intelligence, the main Devourer fleet will arrive within approximately 30 days. We are transmitting tactical data and defensive specifications to your military command. I suggest you begin preparations immediately." Chancellor Vexar, for perhaps the first time in his long political career, found himself at a loss for words. It was Ambassador Artov who finally responded. "Admiral Cortez, the Council acknowledges your assistance and will review the tactical data. But I must ask, why would humanity intervene on behalf of the very civilization that exiled you?" The image on the display shifted to show Cortez on the bridge of his flagship. The years had turned his hair completely white, but his eyes burned with the same intensity they had always possessed. "Because this isn't about politics, Ambassador. This isn't about old grievances or territorial disputes. This is about survival, not just human survival, but the survival of all sentient life in this galaxy. The Devourers don't discriminate between humans and Xerians, between Dralids and Phylaxians. They consume all advanced organic life, as they have done in cycles stretching back millions of years." Cortez's gaze seemed to fix directly on Chancellor Vexar. 15 years ago, you exiled us because you feared human ambition, human technology, human potential. What you could not understand was that our development wasn't aimed at challenging the Council. It was preparation for exactly this moment. The architect records we discovered warned us of the Devourer's return. Every ship we built, every technology we developed, every alliance we formed beyond the boundary, all of it was with one purpose: to be ready when they came. In the silence that followed, Captain Maya Rivera's voice carried a simple question. "Now, Chancellor Vexar, will you work with us to save this galaxy, or will pride doom us all?" The next 30 days saw the most intensive mobilization in Council history. Ancient rivalries were set aside as the various species united against the approaching Devourer threat. human technical advisors were welcomed on Council worlds, sharing defensive technologies and strategies developed during the 15 years of exile. Dr. Priya Singh, now the foremost expert on both architect technology and devourer biology, led briefings for Council scientists. The devourers, she explained, were not merely a hostile species, but a complex hive organism that consumed all advanced organic matter, breaking it down at the molecular level and incorporating useful genetic and neural patterns into their collective. They don't just destroy civilizations, she explained during one such briefing. They consume them, their knowledge, their biological innovations, their consciousness. What remains afterward retains nothing of its original identity. It becomes simply devourer. Lieutenant Rami Al-Khoury, now Admiral Al-Khoury, brought his intimate knowledge of the hidden hyperlane network to Council strategists, enabling defense fleets to move between systems with unprecedented speed and coordination. The networks that had once facilitated humanity's secret exodus now became the lifelines connecting the galaxy's defenders. When the main Devourer fleet arrived, it came not as a single massive force, but as multiple invasion corridors, each targeting different regions of the galaxy. The Council races, even with human assistance, would have been overwhelmed had they tried to defend every approach. Instead, using the architect data and human strategic planning, they established layered defense zones, focusing on protecting core population centers while using automated systems to slow the Devourer's advance through less inhabited regions. The human dreadnoughts, now joined by hastily retrofitted Council vessels, incorporating architect principles, formed the backbone of the defense. Their revolutionary weapons, particularly the controlled singularity generators, proved devastatingly effective against the Devourer bioships. But the aliens adapted quickly, developing countermeasures that forced constant tactical evolution. The war raged across the galaxy for nearly 3 years. Worlds fell. Species teetered on the edge of extinction. The Devourer consciousness grew ever more cunning as it absorbed the knowledge of those it consumed. Yet with each setback, the alliance between humanity and the Council races deepened, forged in the crucible of existential threat. It was Admiral Cortez who eventually proposed the decisive strategy. After analyzing centuries of stellar data retrieved from the architect repositories, he identified a pattern in the Devourer's movements across multiple consumption cycles. They're not random, he explained to the Joint Human Council War Council. They follow specific gravitational flows, cosmic strings that our sensors can barely detect, and they all converge here. He indicated a seemingly empty region of space near the galactic core. I believe this is their nexus, the point where the consumed biomass and information is processed and integrated into their collective. The plan that followed was audacious to the point of insanity. While the bulk of the Allied forces engaged the Devourer fleets in a massive diversionary action, a small strike team consisting of 3 human dreadnoughts and 2 Council science vessels would target the Nexus directly. Utilizing a previously untested architect technology, they would generate an artificial hyperlane collapse at precisely the moment the Nexus was most active, creating a cascading quantum disruption that would sever the Devourer collective consciousness from its constituent parts. Without the unifying consciousness, Dr. Singh explained, the individual Devourer units will revert to basic survival patterns, still dangerous, but no longer a coordinated galaxy-wide threat. The mission was approved, though few believed it had any real chance of success. Admiral Cortez himself would lead the strike force, with Captain Maya Rivera, whose diplomatic skills had proven crucial in maintaining the Human Council alliance, as his second-in-command. As the massive diversionary battle drew the bulk of the Devourer forces, Cortez's small fleet made the perilous journey to the Nexus coordinates. What they found there defied easy description, a swirling mass of organic and mechanical components, pulsing with energy patterns that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. the collected consciousness of countless consumed civilizations, bound together in a horrific unity. The battle that followed would later be described in epic poems and historical accounts across 100 worlds, though such descriptions inevitably fell short of capturing its true nature. The human dreadnoughts deployed their full arsenal of architect-derived weapons, while Council scientists worked frantically to calibrate the hyperlane collapse device. Devourer defenders swarmed from the Nexus, their attacks growing increasingly desperate as they sensed the true nature of the threat. Admiral Cortez's flagship, the Defiance, took the brunt of the Devourer counterattack, its advanced shields failing under the onslaught. As the vessel began to break apart, Cortez made the decision that would seal his place in galactic history, ordering the remaining ships to retreat to a safe distance. He piloted the damaged Defiance directly into the heart of the Nexus, its singularity generators overloading to create a chain reaction that would amplify the hyperlane collapse beyond what the original plan had envisioned. The explosion, when it came, was visible across a fifth of the galaxy. A brief, brilliant flash that momentarily outshone the galactic core itself. The quantum disruption rippled outward along the cosmic strings that connected the Nexus to its constituent parts, severing the links that bound the Devourer collective together. Throughout the galaxy, Devourer forces suddenly lost coordination. Some turned on each other, others retreated in apparent confusion. The well-orchestrated consumption machine had broken down into its component parts, each now acting independently and without purpose. The war was not immediately over. It would take years to hunt down and eliminate the remaining Devourer fragments, but the existential threat had passed. Civilization would endure. In the aftermath, as the galaxy began the long process of rebuilding, Chancellor Vexar convened a special session of the Galactic Council. The chamber on Aurelius Prime, partially damaged during a Devourer attack months earlier, had been hastily repaired for the occasion. Representatives from all Council races attended, along with a human delegation led by Captain Maya Rivera. 15 years ago, Vexar began, his voice carrying throughout the chamber. This council voted to exile humanity beyond the 100 light-year boundary. We believed we were protecting galactic stability from what we perceived as human aggression and unchecked ambition. Today, we must acknowledge that we were wrong. A murmur spread through the assembly. For a Dralid, and particularly for Vexar, such an admission was unprecedented. The human species, far from being the threat we feared, became the shield that protected all sentient life in this galaxy. Their foresight in preparing for the Devourer threat, their willingness to share advanced technologies despite our previous treatment, and their sacrifices in the final battle have earned them not just our gratitude, but our profound respect. Vexar's gaze fixed on Maya. Captain Rivera, as my final act as Chancellor before I step down, I hereby formally rescind the Exile decree. Humanity is welcomed back into the heart of galactic civilization, not as subjects or supplicants, but as equals and honored allies. Maya rose from her seat, her expression solemn. Chancellor Vexar, on behalf of the United Systems of Earth and all human colonies, I accept this gesture in the spirit of reconciliation and hope for a new era of cooperation. She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled representatives. But I must also speak a truth that we humans have learned during our years in exile. The boundary you established was never truly a punishment, but an opportunity. Beyond that artificial line, we discovered new worlds, new resources, and most importantly, new perspective. We found the Architect ruins not because we were looking for weapons or power, but because we were forced to explore regions that the Council had dismissed as worthless. Maya's voice strengthened. The lesson of our exile, and of the Devourer War, is that boundaries, whether physical or intellectual, can blind us to both threats and opportunities. The old Council structure, with its rigid hierarchies and centralized authority, proved inadequate against an existential challenge. What saved us was not protocol or tradition, but adaptation, innovation, and cooperation across traditional divides. She gestured to the human delegation and the council representatives alike. I propose that we use this moment, not simply to return to the status quo, but to forge something new, a galactic alliance that preserves the sovereignty of all member species, while establishing shared defensive and scientific initiatives. The hidden hyperlane network, the architect technologies, the defensive innovations developed during the war, these should belong not to humans or to the Council, but to all sentient beings who wish to build rather than consume. The proposal sparked intense debate, but the shared experience of near extinction had created a foundation for change that might otherwise have taken centuries to develop. Over the following months, the rigid Galactic Confederation gradually transformed into the more flexible Galactic Alliance, with humans playing a key role in its formation and governance. 1 year after the final battle, a memorial ceremony was held in orbit around Earth, a world that many Council representatives were visiting for the first time. A massive space station had been constructed at the L1 Lagrange point, its design incorporating architectural elements from every major galactic civilization. At its center stood a simple monument, a representation of Admiral Cortez's flagship, the Defiance, rendered in an alloy containing materials from 100 different worlds. Maya, now serving as Earth's representative to the newly formed Alliance Council, stood before the assembled dignitaries. The years of struggle had etched lines into her face, but her eyes remained as determined as ever. Admiral Cortez once told me something that I've carried with me through the darkest moments of our exile and the war, she said, her voice carrying easily in the station's perfect acoustics. He said that sometimes the best revenge is not just surviving, but becoming indispensable. She gestured toward the viewport, where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Humanity did not wait to be told twice when we were exiled. We did not waste time in resentment or futile resistance. Instead, we turned outward, we explored, we built, we prepared, and when the moment came, we returned not as supplicants seeking readmission, but as equals bringing salvation. Maya turned back to the assembly, her gaze sweeping across representatives of species that had once voted for humanity's removal from galactic society. The greatest lesson of our journey is this: true strength often grows in adversity. What was meant to diminish us instead forced us to expand. What was intended to isolate us instead pushed us to forge new connections. The boundary that was supposed to contain us became the frontier that freed us. She rested her hand on the memorial plaque, which bore Admiral Cortez's final transmitted words, "For all sentient life." As we move forward together into an uncertain future, Maya concluded, let us remember that boundaries are often illusions, constructs of fear rather than reality. The galaxy belongs to those with the courage to explore beyond the known, to question established wisdom, and to reach across divisions in pursuit of shared survival. We did not wait to be told twice, and neither should this new alliance, as we face whatever challenges await us among the stars. As the ceremony concluded, and the representatives dispersed to continue the work of building a new galactic order, Maya remained by the viewport, gazing at the Earth she had once feared she might never see again. Somewhere beyond the 100 light-year boundary that no longer held any legal meaning, human colonies continued to thrive on worlds the Council had never valued. The network of hidden hyperlanes still connected regions of space that official maps marked as isolated, and deep in what had once been called the Dark Territory, research teams continued to study architect ruins, seeking not weapons, but understanding. The exile had ended, but the expansion of knowledge, of connection, of possibility continued. Humanity had not merely survived, it had transformed, and in doing so, had helped transform the galaxy itself. They had not waited to be told twice, and the galaxy would never be the same.